Before we begin our journey tonight, let us take a moment to find stillness. Allow your body to settle deeply into the surface beneath you. Release the tension in your shoulders, soften your gaze, and let your eyes gently close. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, and then let it go with a long, gentle exhale. With every breath you take, the noise of the day begins to fade, dissolving into a quiet, comforting distance. Tonight, we travel to a place where time slows down, where the waters are calm, and where the mind can finally rest. Let yourself drift into the stillness of the night. The stone steps of the old Ottoman lighthouse are cold beneath the soles of his boots. One after the other, the old man ascends the spiral staircase, moving with a patience that only decades of solitude can teach. For 40 long years, Toma has climbed these stairs twice every single evening. He knows every single inch of the worn, curved masonry. These are rough, heavy blocks of grey limestone, anchored deeply into the thick walls and held together by an ancient, dark mortar mixed with sand and lime, designed to withstand the brutal winter winds of the Black Sea. He knows every hairline crack in the stone and every slow, rhythmic groan of the heavy iron railing under the palm of his wrinkled hand. To anyone else, this place would feel like a cold monument of stone and metal, but to Toma, it is the only home that has ever truly understood his internal silence. Outside, at the very edge of the world, the quiet town of Sulina is fading into the dark. It is a unique place, a fragile sliver of land where the old, tired waters of the Danube River finally surrender themselves, emptying into the deep, endless cradle of the Black Sea. Tonight, the water does not rage. It does not crash violently against the banks. The river flows like liquid silk, a slow, heavy ribbon of dark ink moving through the reeds, carrying the secrets of an entire continent out into the vast, open horizon. Toma stops for a moment on the landing, halfway up the tower. Through a small, narrow window slot, the night air slips inside. It is cool, wet, and heavy, with the unmistakable scent of the Danube Delta, the fragrance of rich, dark earth, wild mint, decaying river plants, and the sharp, clean kiss of sea salt. It is an ancient smell, a scent that has remained unchanged since the first empires built their wooden ports along these shores. He continues his climb, his heavy boots making a dull, predictable sound against the granite. His knees ache with a familiar, dull warmth, a physical reminder of the decades he has spent guarding this fragile line between the water and the land. But tonight, the ache feels lighter, or perhaps more permanent. Tonight is his very last watch. Tomorrow morning, a young man will arrive on the passenger boat, a young man with bright eyes and a clean uniform, who will take the heavy brass keys, who will learn the rotation of the lens, and who will inherit this solitary kingdom. But tonight, the tower still belongs to Toma. One final night to keep the world safe. He reaches the top, entering the glass lantern room. The transition from the dark, enclosed stone staircase to the open, transparent dome always takes his breath away. It feels like stepping directly into the night sky. In the center of the room stands the great heart of the lighthouse, the beautiful, massive Fresnel lens, a masterpiece of layered glass and brass rings that catches the flame and amplifies it into a piercing beam. Toma moves with the slow, deliberate grace of an old craftsman performing a holy ritual. He strikes a long wooden match. The small yellow flame flares up, casting long dancing shadows across the curved glass walls. He gently applies the flame to the heavy oil lamp, adjusting the braided cotton wick with two steady fingers until the fire catches, steady, warm, and bright. With a soft, mechanical release, he frees the weight-driven clockwork mechanism beneath the pedestal. Slowly, effortlessly, the massive glass lens begins to rotate, making a low, soothing sound. A long, brilliant beam of golden light cuts through the darkness, sweeping across the glass room and out into the empty void of the sea, moving with a hypnotic, unchanging rhythm. It shines out into the dark, remains visible for a moment, and then vanishes, only to return again a few seconds later. Toma walks over to his old wooden armchair, the leather cracked and molded to the exact shape of his body over decades of midnight vigils. He sits down slowly, letting his old bones sink into the familiar cushions. On the wooden table beside him, an old brass pocket watch measures the hours of his quiet life at the edge of the world. The night is young, the watch has just begun, and the silence of Sulina is absolute. As the hours move forward into the deep heart of the night, the world outside the glass dome begins to transform. From the vast, unmapped marshes of the Danube Delta, a thick silver fog begins to rise. It does not rush. It drifts forward like a slow, silent tide, creeping over the tall reeds, swallowing the wooden fishing boats tied to the riverbanks, and slowly erasing the small harbour of Sulina from view. Within moments, the world becomes beautifully soft and white. The fog acts like a heavy velvet blanket, dampening every sound from the outside world, leaving only the lighthouse floating in a sea of mist. From his wooden chair, Toma watches the golden beam of the lens strike the fog. Instead of cutting through the clean dark, the light now illuminates billions of tiny floating water droplets, creating a glowing path that stretches out into the void. It is a sight he has seen thousands of times, yet it never fails to soothe his mind. The predictability of the light against the unpredictability of the mist is a dance as old as the tower itself. To the people of the mainland, the fog is an obstacle, a dangerous veil. But to the old keepers of Sulina, the mist is a living presence, a keeper of memory. Toma remembers the stories told by the old fisherman when he was just a boy, sitting around campfires on the riverbanks, while the dark waters of the Danube rolled past. They spoke of this original lighthouse, the ancient stone tower built during the centuries of Ottoman rule, long before the modern European commissions came to reshape the river. They whispered that the tower had a soul of its own, an ancient wisdom embedded in the very stones that formed its core. The fishermen called the old light the light of life, but it was not a passive guide for anyone who happened to pass by. The legend claimed that the light possessed a strange, silent judgment. It was an entity that could choose who to save and who to leave to the shadows of the sea. The old stories whispered that when a ship approached the dangerous sandbars of Sulina, the treacherous place where the river currents fight against the sea waves, the light would sometimes become completely invisible to the crew. If a ship carried a crew of violent men, if the captain's heart was heavy with greed, or if the vessel was running from a dark and unforgiving past, the fog would thicken uniquely around the lens. To those men, the lighthouse would appear as nothing more than a solid wall of blackness. They would search the horizon with desperate eyes, seeing only the void, until the currents dragged them onto the hidden rocks. But for the innocent, for the tired travelers seeking nothing but safe harbor and rest, the light would pierce through the thickest storm, appearing as a warm, welcoming star that guided them gently into the calm waters of the river. The lighthouse was the ultimate judge of the delta, a silent sentinel that demanded purity from those who wished to enter its gates. Toma had spent 40 years remembering this ancient law. He had been taught by the older keepers never to interfere with the judgment of the sea. If the light did not show itself, it was not the keeper's place to force open the eyes of those who were meant to remain in the dark. The rules of the watch were absolute, written in the very stone and dark mortar of the tower. Maintain the flame, trust the lens, and let the night take what belongs to the night. The brass pocket watch on the table continued its slow, rhythmic movement, a steady companion to the rotating lens. Toma breathes in the cool, damp air that leaks through the seams of the windows, feeling a deep, heavy tiredness settling into his limbs. The town is asleep, the river also, and the legend of the light remains guarded within the thick walls of the tower, waiting for the final hours of the watch to pass. The deep stillness of the midnight hour now holds the lighthouse in a firm, quiet embrace. Inside the lantern room, the air remains warm, carrying the faint, comforting scent of burning oil and aged wood. Outside, however, the silver mist has grown even denser, transforming the Black Sea into a vast kingdom of shadows. The golden beam of the Fresnel lens continues its endless, patient journey, sweeping over the white void, illuminating the heavy air every few seconds with absolute precision. Toma leans his head back against the worn leather of his chair, closing his eyes for a few brief moments, listening to the distant, gentle sighing of the waves below. In this place, at the edge of the world, loneliness does not feel like a burden. It feels like a long-lost friend. When he opens his eyes again, his gaze automatically follows the golden path of light as it journeys across the eastern horizon toward the treacherous sandbars of Sulina. It is an instinct developed over 40 years of guarding the coast. At first, there is nothing but the endless shifting patterns of the fog. But then, as the beam completes another slow rotation, a shape begins to materialize out of the white darkness. Far out on the water, precisely where the strong currents of the Danube collide with the waves of the sea, a ship is drifting. Toma sits up slowly, his movements deliberate, his eyes narrowing as he stares through the thick glass window. He watches the ship with a calm but deep focus. It is a large merchant vessel, its sails hanging loose and damp in the still air, moving forward with an uncanny, silent grace. It carries no lanterns on its deck, no warning lights flash from its bow or its stern. It drifts through the silver fog like a ghost from another century, quiet, heavy, and completely blind. The ship is heading directly toward the jagged stone pier, a dangerous path that will surely tear its hull apart within the hour. Toma waits, expecting the vessel to change its course. He knows that the lighthouse beam is incredibly powerful tonight. As the giant lens rotates, the brilliant golden light bathes the entire deck in a warm, bright glow. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. The light is impossible to miss. Any captain, any sailor awake on that deck would see the golden warning from miles away and turn the wheel to find the deep, safe channel of the river. Yet, the ship does not turn. It does not slow down. It continues to drift forward, straight into danger, as if the massive lighthouse does not exist at all, as if the crew is navigating through an absolute, impenetrable blackness. A familiar coolness settles over Toma's heart. It is not the chill of fear, but the profound realization of an ancient truth. He is witnessing the legend with his own eyes on his very last night of the watch. The old stories whispered by the fishermen were true. The lighthouse, the old light of life, has made its judgment. For whatever reason, for whatever hidden burden or dark history that vessel carries within its wooden walls, the light has chosen to become invisible to them. The fog has woven a shroud around their eyes, and the sea is preparing to claim what it believes belongs to the shadows. Toma looks down at his old brass pocket watch. The ancient rules echo in his mind, deeply embedded in his memory. Do not interfere. Let the night take what belongs to the night. It is a law of nature, an agreement between the keepers and the deep waters of the delta. To fight against the judgment of the light is to invite the wrath of the sea into one's own soul. He looks back out at the dark ship. It is closer now, so close that he can almost see the outline of the silent masts through the silver mist. He thinks of the souls on board, perhaps sleeping, perhaps praying in the dark, entirely unaware that the rocks are waiting just a few hundred yards away. For 40 years, he has been a silent observer, a servant of the tower and its laws. But tonight, as his wrinkled hands rest on the wooden armrests of his chair, something shifts within him. He cannot allow his very last watch to end in the cold silence of a shipwreck. He cannot leave them to the dark. Slowly, with a quiet determination, Toma stands up from his chair. Every movement is smooth, calm, and filled with a peaceful purpose. He walks over to the small iron shelf near the door and reaches for his old hand lantern. It is a simple, heavy tool, scratched and dented from years of use, but reliable. He strikes a single wooden match, watching the small flame dance in the quiet room, before gently transferring it to the wick of the lantern. A small, warm, amber glow fills the glass cylinder, casting long, soft shadows across the stone walls. He turns the iron handle of the heavy balcony door. As the door swings open, the cool, damp breath of the Sulina fog rushes into the room, smelling intensely of river reeds and salt. Holding the small lantern firmly in his right hand, the old keeper steps out into the night air, looking down at the dark, wet stone steps, waiting for him, determined to offer a different kind of light to the silent ship in the mist. The descent down the spiral staircase feels different this time. Step by step, Toma moves downward into the cool core of the stone tower. The small amber flame inside his hand lantern casts a gentle protective circle of light upon the ancient grey limestone blocks, guiding his feet with a quiet certainty. There is no urgency in his stride. He walks with the rhythmic, slow pace of a man who has aligned his life with the turning of the tides and the long cycles of nature. When his boots finally touch the ground floor, He pushes open the heavy iron exit door. It swings outward with a soft, sliding sound, and the world of the Delta immediately envelops him. The fog on the ground is even thicker than it appeared from the top of the lighthouse. It is a soft, dense, silver mist that seems to suspend time itself. It is so thick that the modern world completely disappears, leaving only the dark stone under its feet and the vast, invisible waters stretching out into the dark. Toma steps onto the long stone pier, the historic jetty built to divide the depths of the Danube from the furious currents of the Black Sea. The stones beneath his feet are dark and slick with the moisture of the night. On his left, the river flows like a silent, black highway, smooth as glass, carrying the quiet whispers of the marshlands. On his right, the sea moves with a deep, slow respiration, a gentle rise and fall that creates a continuous, soft murmur against the massive rocks of the breakwater. Toma walks forward, directly into the heart of the mist, leaving the tall tower behind him. He is completely alone now, walking a narrow path between two worlds of water. The small lantern in his hand feels warm and comforting against the damp chill of the night. The scent of the air is intoxicatingly pure, with the aroma of wet river stone, wild water mint, and the clean mineral sharpness of the open sea. Every breath he takes feels deep, restorative, and calming. The fog does not feel hostile to him. It feels like a soft curtain drawn by the universe to shield this final, sacred hour of his watch from the noise of the living. As he ventures further down the long pier, the sounds of the town of Sulina dissolve into nothingness. There are no barking dogs, no distant voices, no sounds of machinery. There are only the soft, regular rhythm of his own breathing and the deep, eternal sigh of the Black Sea. Toma thinks of the generations of keepers who walked these very stones before him, men who spent their nights guarding the entrance to the continent, listening to the same waters, watching the same stars disappear into the mist. He feels a profound connection to them, a shared understanding of the beauty found in quiet service. His mind feels entirely clear, free of regrets, ready to surrender the keys of the tower when the morning sun finally breaks through the silver veil. But his task is not yet finished. Through the dense fog ahead, the silence changes. The drifting merchant ship is close now, drawing nearer and nearer to the hidden rocks at the end of the pier. Toma slows his steps, coming to a halt at the very edge of the breakwater, where the stone meets the deep, open water. He stands completely still for a moment, letting the peace of the night ground him. Then, with a calm and steady arm, the old keeper raises his small lantern high above his head. He does not shout into the dark. He does not break the sacred silence of the Delta. He simply holds the tiny flame steady, a small, warm point of human intention shining brightly in the vast silver wilderness. He waits, his breath slow and regular, trusting that this different, humble light will find its way through the shroud where the great lens could not. For what feels like an eternity, Toma stands at the very edge of the stone pier, his arm held high, his old brass lantern shining like a solitary star in the silver wilderness. The universe seems to hold its breath. The fog swirls slowly around him, parting and closing in gentle, hypnotic patterns, as if undecided whether to reveal the secrets of the deep water or keep them guarded forever. Then, through the soft curtain of the mist, the silent ship appears. It draws so close that Toma can see the dark, wet wood of its bow cutting through the calm water without making a single sound. The massive sails hang like heavy drapes from the wooden masts, damp with the dew of the night. But as the vessel reaches the precise line where the rocks begin, something extraordinary happens. The small amber light of Toma's hand lantern finally touches the ship. It does not pierce the dark like a blade. Instead, the small flame seems to melt the heavy fog that had blinded the vessel. High up on the deck, a lone figure appears at the wooden railing. It is the helmsman, his face pale and tired from hours of navigating through the absolute void. For miles, his eyes had seen nothing but blackness, completely blind to the great golden beam of the lighthouse sweeping above. But here, at the very edge of danger, his eyes catch the small, warm human glow of Toma's hand lantern. It is a light he can finally see. Without a word, without a shout, the helmsman turns the great wooden wheel of the ship. The movement is slow, smooth, and deliberate. The large merchant vessel glides gracefully, veering away from the jagged rocks and turning its bow toward the deep, safe channel where the Danube opens its arms. As the ship passes safely by the pier, drifting into the calm waters of the harbour, a profound stillness falls over the water. There are no celebrations, no loud thank you. There is only a deep, shared sense of relief, a quiet gratitude that flows through the night like a warm current. The ship has found its harbour. The judgment of the sea has been answered with mercy. Toma slowly lowers his arm, his muscles warm and tired, but his heart lighter than it has been in 40 years. He looks at his small lantern, its flame still burning steady and true inside the brass frame. With a gentle breath, the old keeper blows out the flame. A small, thin ribbon of smoke rises from the wick, carrying with it the last remnants of his long service, dissolving into the cool, salt-scented air of Sulina. The walk back to the lighthouse is the most peaceful journey of his life. He does not look back at the sea, nor does he worry about the fog. He simply walks, his boots moving in a comfortable, slow rhythm against the stone path. Step by step, he returns to the base of the tower. He pushes open the heavy iron door and begins his final climb up the grey limestone stairs. His knees do not ache tonight. His body feels weightless, carried upward by a deep, serene satisfaction. When he reaches the glass lantern room, the first pale, delicate hints of dawn begins to touch the eastern horizon. The thick, silver fog is starting to lift, turning into a soft, golden haze that illuminates the beautiful landscape of the Danube Delta. Miles of green and gold reed beds begin to appear, waking up under the gentle touch of the morning light. Toma moves to the pedestal of the great Fresnel lens. With a practiced, gentle touch, he engages the mechanical brake. The massive glass circles slow down, coming to a smooth, silent halt. The golden beam fades away, its long night of work finally complete. He extinguishes the main oil lamp, letting the warm glass cool down in the morning air. The old keeper walks over to his wooden armchair, sitting down one last time. He places his brass pocket watch on the table, its work done, its rhythm now perfectly synchronized with the quiet throb of the waking earth. Through the giant glass windows, he can see the passenger boat arriving in the distance, a small speck on the calm river, bringing the young man who will take his place. Toma closes his eyes. He lets his hands rest loosely on his lap, his long silver beard rising and falling with his slow, deep breathing. A wave of profound comfort washes over him, starting from his tired feet, moving up through his limbs, and settling deeply into his mind. He has kept the light. He has guided the lost. His watch is over, and the world is safe. As the quiet light of the new day fills the room, Toma drifts into a deep, dreamless, and beautiful sleep. The silence of the delta cradles him. The soft whisper of the river lulls him, and the peace of Sulina wraps around him like an eternal blanket. Let yourself drift now, just like the old keeper. Let the stillness of the waters fill your mind. Breathe in the calm, breathe out the day, and let yourself fall into a deep, restful sleep. Peaceful, safe, and completely at rest. Good night.